Colossal Order are kind of going back to their roots with the latest expansion to City Skylines, having started out making the Cities in Motion games, these public transportation management sims. They know a thing or two about building a city's infrastructure, and while they had other things higher up on their priority list for what is now probably the best city builder of the last decade, they're now finally getting around to really beefing up the transportation in your cities. So here's 5 ways that the upcoming mass transit DLC and free update help your city's inhabitants get around. Number 1, there's now monorails, blimps, ferries and cable cars. I know it might sound like more of a Shelbyville idea, but perhaps you'd like to consider building a grand monorail in your city. I mean, monorails are pretty cool and they'll run just above your road network, either as part of the road network or being able to diverge away from it as well. And then there's blimps, these grand air balloons that can float from one side of the city to another, landing at your designated stopping points just like any other transport system. Unlike the monorail, you don't have to worry about roads, but you do set air pathways, and you can actually have a kind of pseudo-air road network where you have one blimp stopping for another one to go past. Ferries and cable cars are probably a bit less cool, but useful nonetheless, and ferryways can now make use of the canals feature that was added to the game a little while back. All of this is pretty neat, but it makes me think of the future. Perhaps tourism might be on Colossal Order's to-do list. I mean, cable cars are pretty ideal for ski resorts, and I can almost imagine being able to create a real tourist trap part of the city with scenic tours on blimps and ferries. Tourism isn't in mass transit, but it definitely opens the door for this in future. Number 2 is transport hubs. We already saw the first of this kind of thing a little while ago with the combined shipping and railway hub. I think it was something like that anyway. But Colossal Order are getting serious about blending transport systems in mass transit. You can now build specific transport hubs that combine, for example, a monorail station with a metro station, meaning you no longer need to build 2 separate structures in your city, and that's just going to open up so many more possibilities for your city layout. Number 3, stop signs and traffic lights. Okay, this one is actually excellent, as Colossal Order are finally addressing the day-to-day carnage on the streets of your city, and they're doing so as part of the free update that goes alongside mass transit. A new traffic management view lets you get up close and personal with the challenges of traffic flow, and you can now see all of the traffic that's flowing through a junction, where it's come from, where it's going, or click onto a specific vehicle and let's see the route that that car is taking. It really lets you get to see why a particular junction is always a congested mess and plan accordingly. At the same time, you can now zoom in and modify each and every junction with traffic lights and stop signs. If you want to prioritize a particular route, this is ideal for managing how traffic gets onto a roundabout or whether cars have to give way to those pulling out, and lets you really get very nitty-gritty with how the traffic is flowing through your city. As someone that's often left scratching their head as to what on earth is going on with my traffic, this is one great addition to the info panel. Number 4, faster emergency services. How many times have you sat scratching your head at where on earth the firefighters are, only to find them chilling out in a traffic jam a minute or 2 away? Now they're much better, able to take the quickest route and weave from one lane of traffic to another, cutting through the traffic to get to the emergency as quickly as possible. It's not completely perfect and realistic, as I can only imagine the nightmare it would be to try and cajole a simple road vehicle AI to pull over and get out of the way of an ambulance, and also emergency vehicles won't just swing out onto the other side of the road to skip past a traffic jam. In other words, they'll still get trapped in traffic, but once the traffic's actually moving, they'll be much faster at getting through it all. So really, the onus is still on you to make a road network that actually moves and functions in the first place. Number 5, renaming roads. Okay, this doesn't really help your inhabitants get around the city, but you could already give your city a pretty personal touch by creating districts and naming them suitably obvious things like Green Hill Zone for a hill or Industrial Zone for your industrial centre. Now you can go even further and rename individual roads. This is really one for the kind of player who would want to recreate their hometown specifically, and then maybe use the natural disasters expansion to drop a meteor or 2 onto the houses of people they don't like. But on the other hand, it also just lets you mess around with the world a bit more and maybe call your road like Matthew or Steve or something. You can do that too. Finally, there's just one thing that I think is missing from this expansion. Sure, they're not actually real yet, but wouldn't you just love to be able to have those huge road-spanning megabuses that China are trying to develop? I know that I would, and it might not be particularly practical, whether in real life or in video games, but that's one that I hope that they add down the line. Thanks as ever for watching our video, and as always, pop a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more videos. We've also got something about Cities Skylines on Xbox One, which is live now, for example, and if you're a Cities fan, check that out because it's looking pretty good on console. You can also head over and visit us on the6axis.com, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Goodbye!